Hey y'all, it's Queen Pimp Sunkiss coming through right quick, right fast with a Royale review for episode 3, The Best Man, the final chapters. And the name of this episode is Brown Girl Dreaming. And I, for one, don't think that this is all about the brown girls dreaming. I do feel like there is a heavy emphasis on this, but I also think that the girl part of this is more so about energy, less than it is about sex, physicality of it all. So I feel like it's a whole lot of feminine energy generating, and everybody is figuring out how to balance and maintain it. Okay, now without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get into. So this episode starts off with a montage that I love. I never thought I would say that I had a favorite montage from a show or movie, but this has to be my fave. So it gives us like a where are they now and where they have been from the wedding, from where they did the toast at the wedding, and we get a series of news about all of the peoples. And I feel like this is an immaculate way to do a time jump also, because they did a major time jump. They jumped from 2015 to 2020. Okay, so 2015, Harper graced the cover of the Black Enterprise magazine. We know they had a lot to do with his movie and the constant rolling out of his Bumper G books as well. Okay, so that happened in 2015. By the time they got to 2016, Robin was making meal kits, and Obama served his last term of presidency. Child, fast forward to 2017, and Trump was the president, and then all hellaciousness started to break loose, honey. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. So all types of uprisings. The women specifically was uprising during that time, and y'all know in real life that is referred to the Me Too, Time's Up movement, and just the series of like women no longer taking crap silently anymore. And they let us know that Robin has been a part of that. So her time in Jamaica definitely enlightens her to get into her activist box. And she does that through her meal kits as well, because her meal kits are also dedicated to people who are in 2018, Jordan graced the cover of Variety, and she is working with Anita Roberts. Got her a show on MSNBC. You know, that's a major strive for black women. We're gonna see that shows us the difference a few years make, where Merch is at home making eggs, pancakes, and everything for the girls, and they eat it all up. And then in the next couple of months to a year or so, they got Pop-Tarts and granola bars and they technology, and they ain't really stunned by him. You know what I'm saying? My how times change, okay? Vermont legalizes marijuana, and here we are let known that Candy has continued her study with the herbalism of it all. We see her going to all these different workshops, doing all of this studying, grinding to get to the nitty and the gritty of it all so that she can accomplish her calling. By August 2019, Shelby has graduated, quote unquote, from the Real Housewives and has made herself a mogul, okay? She got shoes, she got spritzers, she got margaritas. She coming out with a workout line. Baby is doing it. Who gonna check her boo? Well, while some of the people is praising her on social media, some of the people is checking her boo. Saying she done gold digs up on a man with a coin to bankroll her mogul life. And this also gave a pretty good depiction of how a lot of people can get all of this praise in general and online, and then that one comment can just ruin it all for that individual and just really make a major mark, especially if it's touching on something that you really care about, such as for Shelby, her husband and her marriage, okay? And Shelby pretty much presents herself as a confident woman, but we see that kind of touched her. So it's something insecure there, but we're gonna get into that. So they go on throughout 2019 and the beginning of 2020, opening up some hotels around the world. They opened up one in Paris. COVID came through in Ricky. They went bankrupt. All that stuff closed. Adios, bye, tisk. So throughout that, y'all know when the panini was going on, then all the black folks around the world rose up, and all the allies of the black folks rose up as well. And we see Robin was a part of that too, and we love to see it. In the midst, Lance is out here on his New York goes to work type stuff. He out here trying out different jobs. It's his new chapter. He trying to find himself. He done reunited, went back home to his kids, okay? Getting some stability in his grieving process, honey. But y'all know one thing that tends to remain true about Lance is his temper. So he tried out the whole sports commentating of it all up there with Stephen A. Smith. Boy, y'all know Stephen A. Smith got a mouth on him, honey, and he must have said the wrong thing, maybe the right thing, depending on who you are and who cutting the check, honey. And Lance popped off. We learned later in the episode, got a confirmation that he choked him out, but we saw him snap out, okay? Stephen A. Smith was like, well, you the one looking for a job? Tisk. So we know that's something that's going to be riding on Lance's psyche throughout this episode, and then some a little bit, and we're gonna get into that, right? So also in the midst, Harper is still doing his thing, and he got a book signing coming up 20 and 20 is where the writers drop us off over here to Harper's book signing, where it is made very apparent that a good bit of his supporting audience are black women. So this is going to play a large role in the conversations that go on this episode, specifically about these new ideas that Harper has for his career, honey, okay? What we also notice, well, at least what I noticed in this scene, is that Harper is hardly ever present exactly where he is. He's smiling and grinning and doing his thing with his pen so he can get that check, but you can kind of see in the little nicks and crannies of everything, his body language and the close-ups and angles and all this, that, and the third, that your boy is not totally present in what he is doing, which may entail that he is not thoroughly passionate about what he is doing, and that is going to be a heavy thing. So we pick up where I believe is later on that night back in Harlem at him and Robin's crib, honey, and Murch's girls are in the living room with Robin and baby Mia, and those two girls are going to be watching baby Mia for the night. Candy is on a phone call upstairs, and Murch and Harper are in the kitchen having a conversation, and Harper is signing a book for We also learn here that Murch is one of Harper's biggest fans, huh? And that kind of creates a parallel for us as well, especially as we get into the masculine and feminine energy as it concerns the men, specifically talking about their manhood. See, I don't think they use those words specifically, as I believe Murch does in this episode, but that this is like, it's not much going on in this conversation, but it's a lot going on in this conversation that has to do with other conversations and plots that are going on and will be going on. Reason why I say that is because Murch is ultimately in a position where he is able to act as a house husband at this point, which means he has quite a bit of time on his hands, especially being the fact that his daughters are at an age where they are more independent, and also his daughters are quite busy, honey. His daughters are quite busy. And so is Candace. So your boy got a lot of time on his hands. He be sitting around reading the books. And we know that Merch is not the typical man. He is actually very balanced in his masculine and feminine energy. Whether he really knows it or not, howsoever, what I think keeps him from knowing it is one, how other men treat him, i.e. his friends specifically, but also the lack of a passion. And perhaps he had a passion, the school, being a lawyer and all of that was his passion and all of that. But now perhaps he needs something new. And I think that's where Harper is as well. And let's get into the specifics of what's being said in this scene. So, as Merch is raving about the book, mind you, from context clues, the Bumper G series is like it seems to be like a erotic Baywatch type of black romance book, like a romantic drama erotica type of book series, right? The one that he's signing in particular says the 90-day guarantee of some sort. So it seems like that's a love story that has to do with like on some two can play their game type stuff, or like how to lose a man in 30 days type stuff, or how to get a man in 30 days. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's giving that. So it kind of creates a picture of understanding as to why he has the core audience that he does, right? And also why, a man like Merch may also be in the midst of that core audience as well, right? And he tells him that may be the last that he wants to do. He wants to get into more woke work, okay? And he wants to be on or mentioned and talked about on this literature show called Tonight's Panel. And some writers he mentions later on is Richard Wright and Baldwin. But in this scene specifically, we have this make-believe for the world writer, literature guy that is highly esteemed and admired in the world of the show. His name is Dr. Richard Temple, okay? So Harper is also admiring him, and we're going to learn in just a sec that Candace has just gotten an opportunity with him, and this man plays a very important role in these storylines, okay. So March is kind of like, ooh, heavy hitters, and in that, Harper got a little touchy about it. He felt like he was being a little shady, like, what you saying? You don't think I can do it? You don't think I can do that? And Marge is like, no, I ain't trying to say that. I ain't trying to say that. It's definitely in you. I just feel like you don't need to abandon your core audience. You don't need to abandon the path. You don't want to abandon the people that have been for you, supporting you, especially monetarily supporting you, showing up to your book signings and all of that, just to get over into another pool of people who aren't guaranteed to really welcome you with open arms. And it's a risk at being called a sellout, even though it seems to me like Harper is talking about taking on more what you call serious topics, which I interpret as woke. And he, used the examples of Richard White and Baldwin and all of them. So it's interesting, right? He's at risk for being called a sellout, even though it seems like he's trying to do something more culturally driven, if you will. But I still understand, because black women specifically tend to be an undercatered to audience. And so when you finally get someone who is catering to that audience, It can be like a spit in the face, like and this does make me wonder, is Harper feeling insecure about being, favored by women and being like a woman's man so much because Harper is a person, a man specifically, that puts a lot of weight in being validated by other men and being seen as manly. And that's a parallel that he has with merch. It just shows up differently. But Harper does validate, agree that the money is good and is looking to afford him a new spot outside of Harlem. And Merch is like, well, wait a minute. Wait, you finna move? You finna leave Harlem? What does Robin think about that? And he's like, he got to talk to Robin first. And their conversation is basically interrupted by cheers from the living room. The girls in there playing games or whatever. And I think that like alerted them to go see, like, is it time to go? This, that, and the third. I believe that they're going on a double date for the night to celebrate the accomplishments of it all. So they get in. Harper thanks the girls for watching Mia for the night. Candace comes down, saying how, she's finally ready. She just got off the phone, kind of going back and forth with her dissertation advisor. And she feels like her advisor is trying to talk her out of her studies. And kind of to be expected given a generation and how new this conversation is for a lot of people. Folks are kind of looking their nose down on Kenzie and the studies that she's doing. But I feel like the reason why Candy is not overwhelmed with other people's thoughts and opinions as it concerns that is because Candy has already been a stripper. She's already done some unsavory things that everybody wouldn't agree with and proven to herself and others that she understands when she is standing in her calling, okay? But this is where I really start to notice some ego buster and energy. I don't know about Robin. If this has just progressed into this season, I'm gonna have to watch the other movies again to confirm. But I'm just not really noticing and accepting, not just now, but through this series, it's really shown kind of how much of an ego buster Robin is and how much she projects fear and insecurity onto other people's dreams and ideas, child. So she says to Candace that every time she talks about it, she looks stressed and asks her, is it really worth the fight? And Candace is like, yes, I feel like it's worth the fight because I want to figure out how to heal and treat social anxieties and other mental and emotional challenges using natural herbs, okay? Using things that are natural that come from the earth and that are good for you and don't have all of those terrible side effects that they be reading off on the commercials for the prescription and over-the-counter drugs and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Because those things are not meant to necessarily heal you. They're meant to temporarily relieve the symptoms and all of that to keep you coming back for more so that folks can get big fun. I be feeling like Robin big fun, okay? So projecting, they can get money at you. Like, she's kind of gotten to a place of, at least at this point, she's gotten to a place of acceptance that she may not be able to do better for herself. And so she's saying those things and projecting that toxic coping mechanism that she's using for herself onto other people. And she probably honestly still jaded and resentful about Harper not agreeing to live in Jamaica or Africa, which and is all understandable, of that. But I don't like the way she put it down. So Candace goes on also, she's keeping high hopes and she's also feeling really good because she just got accepted into one of Dr. Temple's classes. So I told you that was going to come back up. And when she says that, Harper looks a bit jaded. Harper looks a bit jaded and he looked like he wasn't expecting it. And this reminds me, amongst other things that I'm going to talk about another time, how Harper is often looking around at what everybody else has and then tallying it up. So there's a lack mentality there. No matter how much he has, he feels like he never has enough, or maybe he feels like he never has exactly what he wants. And I ain't gonna lie, I wonder if that is rooted in him really wanting to be with Jordan. And I want them to do another season that gets into their at least teenage years, so we can figure out why, even deeper reasons as to why these characters are how they are and have these specific, consistent. And so we also get some implements of how Candace is dealing with some mom guilt, because she is so busy and her kids are so busy, so she doesn't really have time to spend a whole lot of time with her kids, or to see them off and drop them off and pick them up from the different little gigs and whatnot that they have. I'm also thinking that all of these hella extracurricular activities, it's good to have extracurricular activities, but there is a such thing as being overstimulated and overworked and just and so that could also be contributing to the anxiety and things as well. I also feel like the writers are quickly showing how my generation and the younger is so heavily influenced by the mogul trend, the boss trend. So many of us feel like we have to be doing so many different things. And while there's a slave mentality that comes from how it is marketed on social media now is more in the form of like, if you don't have 50 jobs and a boat and a house and a this and a that, by the time you 21, 22, you ain't doing nothing with your life. So that's what I mean. And Merchant Candace may be a bit far removed and also busy and preoccupied with other thoughts and activities and things, to where they may not exactly be picking up on that, though. Well, killing a lot of birds with one stone. Nah, getting on over to Mr. Lance, honey. He over here doing Dior passion. Emphasis on passion. He over here doing passion perfume commercials terribly, honey. Doing it terribly. He is not an actor. He is not a sensual, sexual simulator. It is not giving. And this is also showing us how a lot of the time athletes don't really have the on-screen actor abilities, It's best for them to do what they do on the field, some of them got it, but some of them, child, they play ball. They coach, that's what they do. And so he got to link up with Jordan and figure out what he needs to do. And child, she lets him know. And it's interesting too that he like, I know that's why I don't do Lance this, but he's trying to do the spiritual man and all of this and that, right? And he's on this healing journey, and going through his grieving process in a good way, using his feminine motherly energy that God bestowed upon him. And he doesn't want to call it what it is. He seems to be ashamed to call it exactly what it is. And Jordan's like, you don't need no money. Your bills are paid. Your money is making you money at this point. And she tells him that he doesn't even look like he's enjoying doing it. And I think that's something that everybody could stand to remember. Enjoy what you do. Whatever you do, make sure you enjoy it. And so she says you need to find something that you are passionate about. To reform and redefine his purpose. So his son walks in and is like, yo, what you doing here? I'm actually like, we got trainers at the house and we need to get going so we can get it how we live. And Lil Lance is like, I don't know, I gotta work till such and such. And Jordan is like, you good here. You are overachieving everything. You doing a great job, and you'll be able to beat the I think that Lil Lance is an apprentice or intern or something of the sort to Jordan. So yeah. So on their way out the door, Jordan is reaffirming them like a sweet little counselor coach and everything. And as Lil Lance gets on out the door, she reaffirms Big Lance on
And this is to
specifically
do
what they
with
was
her
talking
show
about.
cancellation
And as they
and her
leave,
trying to figure out what
Anita
her
is
next
on
move
the
gonna be and
what Jordan gonna do and how she gonna hold her accountable and all of that. And the way Jordan gets on the phone and her face and her body language was definitely giving that Anita is a piece of work. And perhaps that Jordan may need to take her own advice because Jordan is doing the performance of it all. Her voice is in the right place. The code switch is switching, okay? Much
That's
like
what it's giving.
Harper,
But
how I
you
said
know,
they aren't really
buttering
present
Anita up,
in what
telling
they are
her that they
doing, but
gonna
they're
meet and
smiling
telling
and
her how
grinning
much
through
of
it
a
all.
priority she is. And at the conclusion of that phone conversation, we segue on into the home practice.
So we back at the ranch with Lance and Lil Lance. And Lil Lance is out there serving the boys all that they could have ever been served. He is impressing the trainers and he seems to be entertaining his daddy quite well. However, at the conclusion, even though everybody else is giving him an abundance of praise, honey. And I like how the director played with levels here. Whereas we know Big Lance is the senior and Lil Lance is the junior. However, they literally have them leveled in a way where Lance looks impeccably, extravagantly, definitely intentional to show larger us the dynamic, to show us the Lil influence, to show us how consumed and possibly intimidated Lil Lance is by his daddy, as well as how authoritative and perhaps even dictator-esque Big Lance is with his son. And Big Lance, I feel like, is also projecting but all in all, certain plays and moves that he tells him that he's gonna have to work on. Lil Lance gives him a little bit of pushback, because everybody else was, giving him, the praise and everything. So it can create confusion and seem weird, but he didn't do too much on it, he let him have it. So when they dap it up and agree and all of that and do their little father-son thing, when Big Lance walks off, we see a change in Lil Lance's energy and face, but we're going to get back to that. And I find it interesting that they rolled over into a scene with Robin right after Lance, because I feel like they were kind of doing the same thing. Ego busting it up around town. Ego busting it up, child. And much like it seems like Lil Lance is always trying to impress Big Lance, Harper is often seemingly trying to impress Robin to no But Harper is so excited, child. He's so excited about how big it is, how many amenities it got, how many accommodations it got. Apparently it got a whole pasta faucet, which apparently is like some type of bidet or whatever for pasta. Now, baby, what is the purpose of that? So I ain't gonna lie, I understand why Robin was looking at him crazy a little bit because, baby, what is the purpose? But at the same time, I feel like Harper has always been very enthused, baby. Maybe we can do by shiny stuff and just, immaculate gadgets and stuff. And this is what rich people do. This is what rich people have as shit. And I feel like, but Robin seems to be becoming ways very annoyed by that. Which he don't understand if it feels like they're always on the move and they never have an opportunity to so just she may feel like if I agree to move in now, then he gonna constantly expect me to uproot every time he see what he perceives to be a bigger and better house, which I can understand that. Like, sir, get your somewhere and sat down. But at the same time, I feel like Robin is being a bit spiteful because she let him know that she ain't really feeling it. She really don't want to leave Harlem, and he wasn't trying. She will think about it. She just gonna need more time than 5 minutes. So we get over to Jordan setting up the new panel show that she has prepared for Anita. So she is on the line with folks giving them black women update of how she buttered Anita up and had her begging for the 4th seat on the panel, honey. She worked her work and we love her for it. And her assistant Nicole is giving her all of the praise. Now Nicole is a bit of a kiss ass.
but it's also necessary. But at the same time, I feel like Jordan really be milking it because Jordan loves to be.
So in the midst of
boss.
this, she gets a
loves
call
to
from
be
Shelby, and she
in
sends
control. She
Nicole
loves to have
to go
people
get a
in and out of
latte, you know what I'm
her.
saying? So she can take a call. And
So Jordan's like, now it's not the time. And Shelby's like, stay on topic. I need some names for my workout app. And so Jordan is like, okay, how about workout app for people who got too much time on their hands? Shelby is getting her good daily dose of social media, watching some type of beef go on between Megan Thee Stallion and somebody else. But in the midst, she stumbles all the derogatory antics going on towards Jordan. The folks is mad at her for the same reason, kinda, that people are telling Harper to hold his horses.
So for those of you who don't know, a black woman having her
ideas.
own talk show on television is major because one, it's been very rare due to racism and misogynoir, and there have been a lot of women. Della Reese, the lady. Oh, now you want to shoot me in my pinky toe. The lady from Harlem Nights. She also did an episode where she played a jazz singer on That's So Raven. She, if I'm not mistaken, if she wasn't the first black woman to have her own talk show, she was one of the first to have her own talk show. And she was literally canceled because they said that she had black gums.
So it can be very difficult for
and the
not
people
only
didn't
black
like her
women
black
to
gums.
get
Their own talk show on television,
but
the
also
people
to
didn't like her
maintain
black
their
skin,
own talk show on
and they
television.
showed
Because
didn't like
society
the
likes to put
between
women
her
in
legs.
boxes.
Specifically, and even more so, black women in a lot of cases. And so people love to police and micromanage how black women come off, child. And you can't control how people perceive things.
Jordan Armstrong is just another self-centered corporate token willing to sell a sister out to make her own star shine.
Tisk. Part 1 of 12. Child, it's a whole. And they don't put her face on the big one. Aunt Jemima box talking about Auntie Jordan's just add bullshit. These folks snap. And these little implementations and these
another
graphics
reason
being
why
thrown
I
up just
feel
like this show is done from the perspective of a reality show. Like, I'm feeling like they are on a reality show. That's my little conspiracy theory. One of my little conspiracy theories for this series is that they are all shooting a reality show. So that's another thing that makes me feel like that. And like I said, from the resort episodes, and like I said in those, I'm gonna do a video that goes through my different implications that I feel like fit into my conspiracy theory that they are shooting a reality show. They just don't ever outright say it because most of the time on reality shows it's unsavory to break the fourth wall. But
Baby
yeah,
Shelby face
child,
says
they are a fool for them means. But that ain't the
Melissa
last
know
one.
she be emoting,
That ain't
honey.
the
She know
last
she be
one.
emoting.
Jordan Armstrong, stay dancing for man's
I can't say that I
dollars.
disagree
with the folks that's dragging Jordan though, because she don't mean no harm, but just because you don't mean no harm don't mean that you
Jordan
ain't
handled
doing
this with
harm,
all
and don't mean that
business
you
mind and no heart.
don't have
And
more that you
has
could
been
do. A consistency for her from the start for a long time, honey. She has been experiencing lesson after lesson after lesson to try to get
Even
her
in
to
business,
come
it is
from
not
a heart
always
just
based.
business. And Jordan is having to learn that the hard way.